The appraiser has both hands under my largest painting when I see my catalog listed in Marlene's loan packet. 23 titles, 23 estimated values, 23 little boxes marked property pledged by borrower. The borrower is my mother-in-law. I put one finger on the page. Owen, why are my paintings collateral for your mother's loan? My husband slides his palm over the list as if I've caught him checking a restaurant bill. Claire, these have been sitting around for years. We're turning idle clutter into something useful. Across the conference table, Marlene lowers her coffee without drinking. The appraiser stops lifting the linen. I look at Owen's hand, at the gold band I chose because he claimed anything wider would bother him when he typed, and wonder when he became someone who could steal from me while still wearing my ring. The painting stands on a padded easel in the middle of Hawthorne House's bridal suite. Marlene has cleared away the garment rack and the upholstered bench, but the room still smells like setting spray and old roses. 5 more wrapped canvases lean against the mirrored closet doors. Through the tall windows, folding chairs sit upside down on tables across the terrace, their white legs sticking into the gray morning. How did these get here? I ask. Owen gives me the look he uses when I've asked a question he wishes were less specific. I brought them over. 12 of these were locked in my studio. We both own the property. The studio door was locked. You gave me a key. For emergencies. Marlene touches the neat silver twist at the back of her hair. This is an emergency. The appraiser clears his throat. He's a narrow man in a navy suit, maybe 60, with rain spotted across one shoulder. His business card is on the table. Julian Cross, Fine Art and Decorative Assets. The distinction feels important now. I was told Mrs. Hawthorne had authority to include the works, he says. I'm Mrs. Hawthorne, Marlene says. He glances between us. The artist. That's Claire, Owen says. My wife. Julian waits. Owen adds, their household property. No, I say. Some of them hang in our house. 2 hang in our house. Those aren't here. Marlene pulls the packet toward herself. Perhaps we can all take the temperature down. Claire, no one is selling anything. The bank needs sufficient security to release the renovation funds. It's a formality. She says renovation because foreclosure would spoil the room. I lift her copy of the collateral schedule. The paper is still warm from the printer. Beside still life with south window, Owen has typed $4,500. Beside blue cup, late rain, $3,000. He has valued the whole group at $68,000, which is both wildly wrong and painfully revealing. Too high for what he tells people my work is worth. Too low for what he hopes it can buy. Who made these estimates? Owen did preliminary research, Marlene says. What research? I looked at some auction sites, he says. Which auction sites? His mouth tightens. Can you not interrogate me in front of a stranger? Julian turns toward the uncovered canvas. Its narrow kitchen, November, painted 5 years ago. A dark table, the edge of a radiator, Ruth's cobalt mug catching the only clean patch of light. I'd wrapped it in glassine and linen because the varnish had finally cured. Owen must have removed both layers and put the linen back. Julian bends close to the lower corner. He studies my signature, straightens, then studies it again. Is there a problem? Marlene asks. He looks at me. Did you exhibit under Claire Vale? The room seems to shift 1/2 inch. Yes. At Bellwether Gallery? Until 2018. I knew it. His face changes not into awe, but recognition, the practical satisfaction of a man locating a fact in the correct drawer. The cup. I cataloged 2 of the kitchen interiors from the Berman estate. One had that same cobalt cup with the chip on the handle. He knows exactly whose work it is. Owen makes a short, incredulous sound. You know her paintings? I know her catalog. The authority in that sentence lands so cleanly I almost resent Julian for giving it to me in a room where I should never have needed help proving I existed. Marlene recovers first. She smiles at him as though this confirms everything. Then we were right to bring you in. Claire is very private about her accomplishments. These works have a documented exhibition history, Julian says, possibly secondary market comparables depending on condition and provenance, but I can't proceed without confirming title. We're confirming it, Owen says. Julian looks at him. Are you the artist? I'm her husband. Do you have written authorization to pledge the works? Owen laughs. It comes out louder than the room requires. I don't need written authorization from my wife to bring paintings from our house to a family property. 12 came from my locked studio, I say. Oh, for God's sake, Claire. Julian folds the linen back over narrow kitchen with careful hands. Owen points at me, though not quite at my face. She's just my wife. This isn't some hostile third party. Our finances are combined. Julian removes his glasses. Her relationship to you doesn't establish ownership of the objects or grant reproduction, sale, or encumbrance rights. I need documentation, not a description of your marriage. A tiny sound escapes me. Not a laugh, exactly. It could have become one in a kinder room. Marlene hears it. I'm glad you find this entertaining. I don't. You arrived 20 minutes late. I was at the gallery, and we have been trying to keep a business afloat. I came because Owen said you needed me to look at wall colors. Owen rubs his forehead. Because if I'd told you the truth, you would have made this impossible. That is the first honest thing he says. Rain starts against the windows, soft and sudden. Julian takes the packet from Marlene, draws a line through the heading on his working copy, and writes something beside it. What are you doing? She asks. Suspending the valuation. You haven't valued anything. Correct. Her smile turns brittle. Mr. Cross, I'm paying for a professional service. You're paying for an appraisal of assets you represented as yours to pledge. Mrs. Vale. Hawthorne, Owen says. Julian keeps his eyes on me. What name do you currently use professionally? Vale. Ms. Vale, do I have your permission to inspect, photograph, research, or value these works? No. He caps his pen. Then we're finished with the art portion. Marlene rises. She's wearing a cream suit she saves for meetings where she expects someone else to feel underdressed. Could I speak to my son privately? I'd rather you didn't, I say. This is my business. And my work, which you store in a garage. It's a converted studio. It has a lawn mower on the other side of the wall. Owen pushes his chair back. Mom, Marlene's eyes stay on mine. You know what happens if the bank refuses this loan? I do. Hawthorne House misses its tax payment. The kitchen contractor files a lien. The spring bookings get nervous if the terrace remains torn up. Marlene has explained these facts over dinner, over voicemail, and once through the bathroom door while I was brushing my teeth. What I didn't know was that Owen had offered her my answer before asking me the question. I take out my phone. He steps toward me. What are you doing? Photographing the schedule. Claire, don't turn this into evidence. The words silence all of us. Then Julian reaches over and moves his briefcase so I have a clearer angle. I photograph every page, the collateral list, the borrower declaration, the page with Owen's estimates. At the bottom of the schedule, under Source of Asset Information, he has typed, Family Collection, acquired through artist's spouse, not created by, acquired through. When did you prepare this? I ask. A couple of weeks ago. 3, Marlene says. Owen shoots her a look. 3 weeks ago, he brought me tea in the studio and asked why I didn't sign my newer paintings, Claire Hawthorne. He leaned against my work table while I cleaned brushes in the cobalt mug because the utility sink was clogged. He kissed the back of my neck. I thought he was trying to understand why I kept part of my old name. He was doing research. Where's my inventory binder? I ask. He looks blank too quickly. The black binder from the flat file. I scanned some pages. Where is it? At home. Is it? His eyes move toward the paintings by the closet. I cross the room and start checking the wrapped canvases. Blue cup, late rain, hallway with 3 coats, Ruth's chair. The labels are in my handwriting, but the strips of blue painter's tape have been cut and reapplied. On the back of each frame is a small white sticker with a number that isn't mine. Did you put these on? The loan officer needed an inventory, Owen says. You numbered my work? They're removable stickers. I peel one away. It leaves a pale, gummy square on the wood. Marlene exhales through her nose. We have spent 40 minutes discussing tape. Julian opens his briefcase and takes out a stack of condition sheets. Adhesive labels shouldn't be applied directly to the frame. Thank you, I say. Marlene looks at him. Whose side are you on? I'm an appraiser. It's the driest thing anyone has said all morning. Under other circumstances, I might like him. I count the canvases in the bridal suite. 6. There are 4 more in the upstairs hall and 9 in the small ballroom, where Marlene has already arranged them against the walls to see how they look. 2 are in her office. That makes 21. Where are the other 2? Owen says, all of them are here. The schedule has 23. He takes the pages from me and runs his finger down the list, as though the extra paintings might have appeared since breakfast. Marlene moves toward the door. The 2 smaller pieces are downstairs. Where downstairs? In the tasting room. The tasting room is what she calls the old basement pantry since adding a marble counter and 6 brass stools. I head for the stairs. Owen catches up in the hall. Can we have one conversation before you go nuclear? I'm counting. You're embarrassing my mother. She stole 23 paintings and you're worried she's embarrassed. I moved them. That distinction isn't helping. I was going to tell you. When? After the appraisal. So after you knew what they could get you. He walks beside me, keeping his voice low as we pass Marlene's office. The bank wants a cushion. The building appraised lower because of the roof, and Mom needs to finish the terrace before the April contracts. Once those deposits clear, the paintings come home. You signed a document saying she could pledge them. I haven't signed the final. Did you sign anything? His pause answers me. At the basement landing, I stop so abruptly he nearly runs into me. How much of our studio money did you give her? His face closes. Owen. She needed to cover payroll. How much? We can talk about our accounts at home. How much? 28. For a second, I think he means 2,800 because that is survivable, and my mind is kind enough to offer it first. Then I remember the balance in the studio account. $28,000? It was a bridge. To what? The loan. The loan you needed my paintings to secure. He puts both hands on his hips. It makes him look like a man waiting beside a car that won't start. This is why I didn't tell you all at once. I laugh then. I can't help it. Downstairs, one of the pendant lights flickers above the marble counter. My 2 small paintings sit on brass easels between sample place settings. Place cards printed with prospective lenders' names are tucked into linen napkins. Marlene hasn't merely brought the paintings here for Julian. She has staged them for tonight's meeting. Above the counter, Ruth's chipped cobalt mug holds black pens. I stare at it. Owen follows my gaze. Mom probably thought it was part of the display. It was in my studio. I can get you another mug. My hand closes around it. The old chip fits beneath my thumb, familiar as a tooth. Ruth used to drum her brushes against the rim when she thought a painting was lying. She said objects earned their place by witnessing the work. You can't get me another one. I know what you meant. I empty the pens onto the counter. One rolls beneath a brass stool. Marlene appears at the bottom of the stairs. Those place settings need to remain exactly as they are. Then you should pick up your pen. She looks at the mug in my hand and seems genuinely confused by my anger. That almost hurts more. Upstairs, Julian has packed his measuring tools. I ask if I can have his card. He gives me 2 and writes his direct number on the back of 1. If any work has been moved off-site, tell me now, I say to Owen and Marlene. Nothing has been sold, Marlene says. That wasn't the question. Owen's jaw works. They've all been here since Sunday. Sunday. He kissed me goodbye that morning and said he was helping his mother move terrace heaters. I choose 3 paintings: Narrow Kitchen, November, Ruth's Chair, and Blue Cup, Late Rain, the ones I can fit safely in my hatchback without a rack. Owen watches me carry the first toward the service entrance. What about the others? They stay exactly where they are until I arrange transport. Tonight's lender dinner. We'll have blank walls. Marlene follows us onto the covered drive. Rain taps the metal awning. You are willing to let a valuable property fail over pictures you weren't even trying to sell. I slide the painting into the padded space behind the passenger seat. No, I say. Owen was willing to let our marriage fail over a loan you couldn't afford. He flinches. Marlene doesn't. I load the other 2, buckle the cobalt mug into the passenger seat, and photograph every remaining canvas before I leave. Owen stands under the awning with rain blowing onto his shirt cuffs. He looks less like a thief than the man I married, which is the worst part. My phone rings before I reach the end of the drive. I let it ring until the gates of Hawthorne House open. Then I drive through without asking whether he is coming home. At the first red light, I turn my phone face down in the cup holder. It keeps buzzing against the plastic. Owen calls 3 times. Marlene calls once, waits exactly 2 minutes, then sends a text long enough to fill the screen. I don't read it. The cobalt mug rides beside me with the seat belt pulled through its handle. It looks ridiculous and ceremonial, like I've rescued a dignitary who has no idea there was a war. At home, I carry the paintings into the dining room instead of the studio. The door in the garage is closed, the brass key still hanging on the hook beside it. Owen had replaced it after letting himself in. A little curl of blue painter's tape is stuck to the concrete near the threshold. Inside, gaps line the storage rack. Dust marks show where frames stood. My black inventory binder is missing from the flat file. The loose sheets beneath it have been shuffled, and one drawer doesn't close because a canvas clip has fallen behind the track. I put the mug on my work table. The pens Marlene kept in it left black streaks inside. I fill it at the utility sink, add a drop of dish soap, and watch the water darken. I'm scrubbing the glaze with one of Owen's old toothbrushes when his car comes up the drive. He enters through the garage with rain in his hair and Julian's business card pinched between 2 fingers. You left me there. I keep scrubbing. My car was at home. I rode with Mom. You found a way home. That's your response? What should it be? He throws the card onto my table. It skids under a jar of palette knives. Do you know he stayed behind to photograph the building's furniture? Like nothing had happened. Mom had to sit there while he valued a set of dining chairs. He was hired to appraise her assets. He humiliated her. You keep using that word for things she did to herself. Owen takes off his wet jacket and drapes it over my clean stool. I lift it by the collar and hand it back. He stares at me, then hangs it on the doorknob. I'm sorry about the mug, he says. It's so small compared with everything else that I almost accept it. You took my inventory binder. I borrowed it. Where is it? In my laptop bag. Bring it to me. Claire. Now. He disappears into the house. I rinse the mug and set it upside down on a folded rag. My hands smell like lemon soap and metal. Owen returns with the binder held against his chest. It is thicker than I remember because he has added clear plastic sleeves. Inside each sleeve is a photocopy of one of my catalog sheets, followed by something printed from an auction website. He has highlighted prices in yellow. You altered it. I organized it. You put printouts inside my records, so Cross could see comparables. These are not comparables. This one is a watercolor by a man in Toronto. It's a kitchen scene. I look at him. He presses his lips together. Fine, that was probably the wrong one. On the back cover, Marlene has attached a Hawthorne House business card with a paperclip. Under her name, she has written Claire Vale Collection in blue ink. I remove it and place it on the table. How long have you known she was going to use my paintings? She asked about temporary collateral in May. It is November. And when did you say yes? I said I'd look into it. When did you say yes? He walks to the narrow studio window. Our yard is mostly mud from the drainage work we paused to save for the garage conversion. Past the fence, the maple has shed nearly all its leaves. After the roof estimate came in, 3 weeks ago. About that. The same week you transferred the money. He nods. Did you ever plan to ask me? Yes. When? I don't know, Claire. When I had enough information to explain it without you reacting to half the picture. I close the binder. You mean after all the choices were made? You haven't been inside Hawthorne House's numbers. You hear loan and assume Mom is being reckless. But there are signed contracts through next fall. If she gets through the terrace repair, she's fine. Then the contracts should secure the loan. The bank doesn't see projected revenue the same way. But they'll take paintings you call clutter. His face tightens. I said that because you walked in ready to explode. I walked in expecting paint colors. I panicked. You demeaned my work because panic showed you which side you were on. He turns away from the window. There are not sides. That is what you keep doing. You take a problem that affects all of us and divide the room into teams. Your mother borrowed $28,000 from us. We gave her a bridge, without me. The account required either signature. The sentence is polished. He's been holding it for me. I take the studio key off its hook. Legally, he says, I was allowed to make the transfer. And that's what you want to be married to? Whatever you can legally get past me? That's not what I said. It's the only thing you said. I walk him out of the studio and lock the door. He stands on the garage side, close enough that I can smell the rain on his shirt. You gave me that key, he says, for emergencies. My mother's business failing is an emergency. Not inside this room. I hold out my hand. He looks at it. The copy. His shoulders drop. Then he takes his keys from his pocket, worries the small brass one off the ring, and lets it fall into my palm. That night, he sleeps on the living room sofa without either of us suggesting it. I stay in bed and hear him open the refrigerator at 1:15, then again at 2. At 3:40, I log into our bank account. The studio savings balance is $3,184.22. I read the transfer line until the numbers stop looking like numbers. Then I open a checking account in my name and redirect the deposit from the small gallery installation. I leave enough in the joint account to cover my share of the mortgage and utilities through the end of the month. At 8, I call a locksmith. Owen watches from the kitchen window as the woman drills out the studio cylinder. He has made coffee for both of us. Mine sits near the sink in the green cup he knows I dislike because the rim is too thick. You already have my key, he says when I come inside. I don't know how many copies you made. 1. I don't know that. He wraps both hands around his coffee. What exactly are you planning to do? Get my paintings back, rebuild my inventory, find out what else was promised. And after that? I don't know. It frightens him more than if I say divorce. He looks down at the counter. Mom moved the lender dinner to next Thursday. That doesn't involve me. She wants to use the ballroom pieces just for the evening. No. She said she'd put them behind ropes. No, cross-recognizing the work actually helps. It makes the collection sound established. I study his face for evidence that he hears himself. When he finally does, color rises along his neck. I'm not saying that's why any of this happened. I need the mover's fee. What mover? The company Julian recommended. They're collecting the other 20 paintings this afternoon. His head comes up. Today, they had a cancellation. You called Cross? I called the number on his card. You made arrangements without discussing it with me. Yes. The word hangs between us. He understands the imitation, even if he doesn't enjoy it. That's different, he says. It is. They're mine. The art movers arrive at Hawthorne House at 1. I meet them by the service entrance with my inventory binder and photographs. Marlene has instructed the staff not to let anyone in until she arrives, so 2 men in quilted vests wait beside a stack of padded blankets while the banquet manager, Susan, apologizes to me. I didn't know they were yours, she says. You've seen my work before. I thought the new pieces were on consignment. From whom? She glances toward the office. Marlene said it was a family collection. Marlene's sedan comes around the drive too fast and brakes beside my car. She gets out carrying garment bags. "I have a floral consultation in 40 minutes, she says. "This is exceptionally inconvenient. The movers will be quick. I told Owen we would return everything after the dinner. He can't lend what isn't his. They have been here 5 days, Claire. Nothing terrible has happened to them." I think of the adhesive squares. Susan studies the floor. Marlene notices. Her voice softens. "Claire, come into my office. Let's handle this without involving staff." Staff was already involved. "I protected your privacy. You told them the paintings belong to the family. They do belong to a family, yours." I open the binder to my checklist. "We'll start upstairs." She doesn't block me. Marlene rarely blocks a door when she can make walking through it feel vulgar. The paintings have been moved since yesterday. 4 now hang in the ballroom. 3 sit on easels near the terrace doors. Small white cards have been tied to the frames with cream ribbon. Claire and Owen Hawthorne collection. The movers begin taking them down. Marlene watches the first card swing from its ribbon. I corrected the labels so there could be no confusion. My professional name is Vale. I thought you might prefer your husband's name in your husband's family business. I prefer my own name on my own work. Her eyes sharpen. You're behaving as though Owen has never supported you. He came to openings. He paid the mortgage while you cared for Ruth. I paid half the mortgage from commissions and teaching. You sold 3 paintings that year. 5. Marlene blinks, annoyed that I know the count. Then her expression changes. It becomes almost tender. "He was terrified when she got sick," she says. "What?" "Owen. He watched you pour everything into Ruth. He said there was nothing left when you came home. I told him grief takes what it takes." For one disorienting second, she sounds like someone who saw me. Then she adds, "He has spent years waiting for you to return to this marriage. When I needed him, perhaps it felt good to be useful." The mover nearest us adjusts a corner protector without looking up. "You needed my paintings," I say. "I needed collateral. Owen needed a solution. You needed a reason to remember you had a career. This could have helped all 3 of us if you weren't determined to call it theft. There it is. Marlene's gift for arranging every appetite into a favor." I untie one of the cream ribbons. "You're going to reimburse the moving fee." She laughs. "Send an invoice." "I will." As the last painting leaves the ballroom, Susan approaches with a clipboard. "Claire, before you go, did you happen to finish the place cards for the Dalton tasting?" Marlene answers for me. "She'll email them." "No," I say. Susan looks between us. "They're tomorrow." I sent Marlene the editable file in September. The printer says the file is flattened. That's the proof. The working file is on my computer. Marlene gives me a warning look. "It would take you 5 minutes. It would take 12. I know because I've done it dozens of times. Fix a misspelled name, change a menu line, export the file, call the printer, explain Marlene's deadline as though it were mine. I'm not available." Susan presses the clipboard to her chest. "Do you know the font?" Baskerville. 11 point. The flourishes are separate vector files. "Thank you." Marlene says my name. "I'm withdrawing my unpaid services from Hawthorne House." "Over this?" "Because they were never treated as mine to give." The movers close the truck. For the first time, the ballroom walls look as tired as they are. Scuffed paint, patched nail holes, a water stain near the crown molding. My work had been hiding more than empty space. At home, the paintings fill the dining room, the guest room, and half the hall while I wait for proper storage racks. Owen steps around the wrapped canvases as though they are bodies. On Friday, the florist calls about a seating chart template. I tell her I'm no longer handling Hawthorne House materials. On Saturday, Susan emails to ask where Marlene keeps the linen repair kit. I tell her it's in the lower catering cabinet behind the votives. Sunday afternoon, Owen finds me at the dining table removing Marlene's labels. "Mom had to pay rush fees on the Dalton printing," he says. I drop a cream ribbon into the trash. She also found out the spring invitation suite uses a photograph you took. It does. She needs the original file. I'm not licensing it anymore. Claire, it's a picture of the terrace. It's my picture. She already printed brochures. Then she can use the brochures she printed under the old permission. She can't make more. He pulls out a chair but doesn't sit. You're choking the business a piece at a time. No, I stop breathing into it. That sounds clever, but people work there. I know their names, I've fixed their menus, photographed their tables, hemmed their linens, and answered calls from vendors who couldn't get your mother to approve invoices. I worked there too. You volunteered. I did. I'm not volunteering now. He looks around at the wrapped paintings. What do you want from me? The truth would be a start. I told you about the money. After I found the collateral schedule. What else do you think there is? I don't know yet. His phone lights up on the table. Marlene's name appears, disappears, then appears again. He turns it over. For the first time since the meeting, he lets her call go unanswered. Then my phone rings. The caller is Elise Morgan, who managed Bellwether when Ruth and I showed there. I haven't spoken to her in almost 6 years. Claire, she says when I answer, I just received a very strange inquiry about the Vale catalog. I look at Owen. He is still standing across the table, his hand resting on my inventory binder. What kind of inquiry? I ask. A man claiming to represent your marital collection wants sales records and image files. He says there may be a dispute over who owns your recent work. Owen lifts his hand from the binder. Elise's voice cools in my ear. Would you like to tell me what's going on? I turn away from Owen. There's a loan application, I tell Elise. My husband listed my paintings as collateral for his mother's business. Silence, then. Say that again. I do. She asks practical questions. Which works? How many? Whether anything sold through Bellwether is on the list. Whether I signed an agency agreement or blanket authorization. Her precision steadies me until she asks who contacted her. Daniel Price. He described himself as an asset consultant. Owen stares at the dark screen of his phone. Do you know him? I ask. He's helping with the bank package. You told another appraiser my work might belong to you? He's not an appraiser. He handles commercial loans. Elise hears him. Is that Owen? Yes. Put me on speaker. I do. Owen, she says. What exactly did you ask Mr. Price to obtain? He pulls out the chair and sits. Historical sales data. I was trying to establish value. Did you tell him Claire authorized that request? No. Did you tell him ownership was disputed? I said there might be questions because some recent work was made during the marriage. My stomach turns cold. Elise's voice loses even its professional warmth. Marriage doesn't make you the artist. I never said it did. What did you say? That materials came out of a joint account. The studio is on joint property. I paid household expenses while Claire had periods of lower income. Those facts exist. He speaks calmly now. The calm is worse. It means he has rehearsed this too. You called my work idle clutter on Thursday, I say. By Sunday, you own part of it. I'm not claiming I own it. You told a loan consultant there's a dispute. I told him the bank might ask. There was no dispute until you created one. Elise interrupts before he can answer. Claire, I'm going to respond that Bellwether won't release collector records without your written permission. I also need to tell you something you won't enjoy hearing. Go ahead. I was going to ask whether you wanted to discuss representation again. The Berman piece's resurfacing has generated interest, and I've followed some of your recent work online. I grip the phone tighter. But I can't bring a new group into the gallery while someone is warning lenders that ownership may be contested. Even a ridiculous claim becomes a disclosure problem. Owen looks at me. His anger collapses so quickly that for a moment he looks ill. Elise, I didn't know. I wasn't speaking to you. I can correct it. Then correct it in writing. She arranges to meet me Tuesday and ends the call. Owen sits with his hands flat on the table. Between us, cream ribbons curl out of the trash. I thought you didn't want to go back to Bellwether, he says. I didn't know they wanted me back. You said that part of your life was over. I said I was tired of asking galleries to remember me. That sounded like a decision. It was grief. He looks toward the hall where the wrapped paintings narrow the path to the kitchen. I didn't mean to cost you anything. You were trying to make my work available to the bank. Whether I wanted a career only mattered when it increased the valuation. That's unfair. It's exact. He stands. I'll email price. Show me before you send it. His face changes. That's humiliating, he says. So was standing in a bridal suite while you explained me to an appraiser. He leaves the room without answering. The email arrives in my inbox 40 minutes later. It says there is no present dispute regarding Claire's authorship, but questions of ownership remain subject to standard marital property review. I read it twice, then forward it back with one sentence. That is not a correction. He doesn't send another version. Julian refers me to Tessa Green, an independent registrar who works out of a second-floor office above a frame shop. She has cropped gray hair, red glasses, and no patience for loose dates. Around 2019 is not a provenance record, she says. I moved studios twice that year. Then we'll use invoices. For 3 afternoons, we rebuild the catalog from bellwether consignment sheets, supply receipts, exhibition photographs, emails with collectors, and images saved on 2 old hard drives. Tessa doesn't promise that every object is unquestionably separate from every marital interest. She explains the difference between the physical paintings, my copyright, my professional name, prior sales agreements, and whatever an attorney may eventually say about assets created during the marriage. The complexity embarrasses me. I should know this, I say. You should know how to paint, she says. You hire people like me to be unpleasant about accession numbers. She finds humor in everything except bad records. The work exposes how much of my career I let become informal. I gave pieces to friends without receipts. I traded one for dental work. Ruth sold a small panel from her studio and handed me cash in an envelope with a grocery list written on it. There are victories, too. The 3 paintings I took first were all begun before I married Owen, documented in bellwether exhibition photographs. 11 others have clear commission trails or dated studies. Julian sends condition notes confirming that the white labels and Marlene's ribbons were added after my original documentation. Then Tessa zooms in on a photograph from Hawthorne House. Is that surface damage? A pale crescent arcs beside the cobalt mug in blue cup late rain. I enlarge the image. Owen leaned a frame against it while the paint was wet. You noted that? No, I was furious and fixed most of it. When was the photo taken? The image came from the loan packet. I checked the metadata Owen preserved when he inserted it into my binder. 3 weeks ago, Tuesday at 7:14 p.m. I remember that night. I taught a workshop across town. Owen texted me at 7:20 asking whether I wanted him to order Thai food. Tessa taps the screen. This establishes he was photographing inside the studio before the works were moved. It's a small fact, but it takes away his last defense that everything happened quickly. I save 3 copies. Elise is courteous when I meet her. That hurts more than anger. We sit in Bellwether's back office under the vent that always blows too cold. The same dent remains in the filing cabinet where Ruth once backed into it carrying a bronze sculpture. You disappeared, Elise says. I know. You missed 2 scheduled calls. Then your email changed. I know. I was angry for a long time. I'm sorry. She looks at the corrected inventory Tessa prepared. Ruth dying explains it. It doesn't make it pleasant. No. And Owen? I met him 6 months before she got sick. He was charming. He still can be. Elise takes off her glasses. That sounded like a warning to yourself. She agrees to hold the conversation open, but no contracts, announcements, or consignments until the ownership issue is resolved. It's reasonable. I still cry in the parking garage. When I get home, Owen is cooking. Actual cooking, not heating soup. Garlic and butter fill the kitchen. He has moved the wrapped paintings away from the stove and arranged them so there's a clear path from the hall. On the counter, beside my plate, is the cobalt mug. He must have taken it from the studio before the lock changed or from the dining room while I was at Tessa's. Inside it are my clean brushes, bristles up. I washed the ferules, he says. Some had dried medium. I touched the chipped handle. For years he noticed things like that, the brush soap running low, the radiator clicking after midnight, the way I needed 10 quiet minutes after teaching before I could talk. That man isn't false. He's simply not the only man in him. You shouldn't move things from my studio. I know. Do you? He turns off the burner. I sent the correction. He gives me his phone. The second email says Claire alone controls access to her catalog, images, and professional records, and Owen has no present authorization to represent her work to a lender. It does not concede ownership of every recent painting, but it stops pretending he speaks for me. Thank you, I say. I withdrew the paintings from the package. Julian already refused them. I formally withdrew them. He portions pasta into bowls. Mom's furious, I assumed. She says you enjoyed making her look desperate. Did you tell her she is desperate? He almost smiles. I told her the roof estimate isn't a personality test. That sounds like him, too. We eat at the kitchen counter because the dining table is covered with records. For 10 minutes, we discuss ordinary things. The furnace filter, a cracked plate, whether the leftover parsley will keep. Then he says, she lied about the debt. I put down my fork. The kitchen contractor isn't the only lien. She owes the rental company 2 beverage distributors and a private lender, more than she told me. How much more? Enough that the 28 wasn't a bridge. I wait. She offered me an equity stake if the loan closes. Did you take it? I signed a letter of intent. When? Before the appraisal. Of course. What happens if the loan doesn't close? She probably has to sell. And our money? I don't know. The honesty is late and insufficient, but it is honesty. He reaches across the counter, then stops before touching my hand. I can see now that I kept trying to rescue her because I needed the rescue to prove the last rescue wasn't stupid. I look at him. I'm sorry, he says. Not about the mug. Not about how it looked. I'm sorry I decided your no was a problem I could avoid. For one dangerous second, I want apology to be an event instead of a beginning. What did you replace the paintings with? I ask. His hand retreats. What? The bank package still exists. What did you offer after you withdrew my catalog? He looks at the pasta cooling between us. My personal guarantee. Backed by what? The house. The furnace comes on below us. You can't pledge the house without me. The bank knows that. Does your mother? She knows they'll need both signatures. And you thought dinner would get me there. I thought if you saw the complete plan, I stand so fast the stool scrapes tile. He says my name, but I'm already at the counter, lifting the cobalt mug by its chipped handle. My clean brushes knock softly against the glaze. When is the lender dinner? He doesn't answer. Thursday? Yes. Is she still using my terrace photograph? His eyes move away. I take out my phone and open Hawthorne House's latest post. Behind a table set for lenders, filling the blank ballroom wall is a reproduction of Blue Cup, Late Rain. The pale crescent near the mug is visible even on my screen. Across the bottom, in gold lettering, Marlene has written, "From the Claire and Owen Hawthorne collection." I turn the phone toward Owen. What is that? He looks at the reproduction as if seeing it through my eyes might change the pixels. She said she had a print made. A print? For the dinner. She said the walls looked stripped. It's 6 feet wide. I didn't know the size. Where did she get the file? His silence answers before he does. I photographed the paintings for the appraisal. You gave her the photographs after I withdrew permission? She already had the folder. Did you tell her to delete it? I told her not to use your work. But you didn't make sure. How would I make sure? The question carries the old expectation. If Marlene cannot be controlled, then I must absorb her. I set the mug on the counter. Call her. What are you going to do? Call her. He dials. Marlene answers before the first ring finishes. Owen, I'm in the middle of... Take down the reproduction. A pause. Claire is there. Yes, it's decor. It's her painting. It is a photograph of her painting, and the lender already saw it in the presentation packet. Removing it now would make us look unstable. I lean close to the phone. You are unstable. Claire, I credited you. You credited a collection that doesn't exist. The work was made during your marriage. The image is mine. We can discuss the wording. No, take it down. I have 26 guests arriving tomorrow, a chef working around construction, and a bank representative who has rearranged her schedule twice. I am not redesigning the ballroom because you dislike the wording on a temporary sign. It isn't a sign. Then take it as a tribute. Owen closes his eyes. Mom, you cannot use it. Her voice hardens. I am trying to preserve something you may one day inherit. I don't want Hawthorne House. You say that now because Claire has convinced you helping your mother is a moral defect. He flinches, and I know she has found the exposed nerve. I take the phone from him. Marlene, if the reproduction is displayed tomorrow, I'll come remove it. You will not disrupt my event. Then remove it first. I end the call. Owen looks at me. You can't walk into a lender dinner and pull something off the wall. I can walk into a room where my work is being used to get my signature. It's not that simple. It has become very simple. I take the mug and return it to the studio. The new key turns stiffly in the lock. Tessa answers my call from a restaurant. I can hear dishes and low conversation behind her. She asks me to send the post, the original photograph from the loan packet, and any prior written agreement with Hawthorne House. There was no agreement, I say. I let Marlene use images when she asked. Email? Text? Usually text. Find them, especially anything where you limited the use. I spend the evening searching 6 years of messages. Can we use the terrace photo for the fall brochure? Yes, that one printing is fine. Would you mind if we put Ruth's chair on the website through June? Through June is okay. Please credit Claire Vale. One request after another, each specific because I assumed specificity mattered between people who ate at the same table. At 11, I write a notice withdrawing every permission Hawthorne House has to reproduce, display, distribute, advertise with, or imply endorsement through my work. Tessa corrects my list of titles and image numbers. Elise adds the dates of the bellwether photographs. Julian confirms by email that the enlarged image in Marlene's post matches the photograph supplied in the suspended appraisal packet. None of them promises the paper can make Marlene obey by tomorrow. That is not what I need it to do. I need it to make my answer impossible to misunderstand. Owen stays on the sofa. At 2 a.m, light still shows beneath the living room door. When I come into the kitchen at 7, the lender dinner invitation is on the counter. He has written my name on the back. You weren't invited before? I ask. Mom assumed we were coming together. Were you going to bring the guarantee papers home afterward? He grips the edge of the sink. The bank representative was going to explain them. In a room full of people invested in me saying yes. I wanted you to understand what your signature could save. And if I still said no, I don't know. That's the problem, Owen. You never planned past my surrender. He looks older in the morning light. If she sells now, the private lender gets paid first. Our 28 is probably gone. It may already be gone. I know. Are you going tonight? He nods. To support the loan? To tell her I'm not offering the house. I want to believe him. I also know he could mean it at 7 and fold by 7:30. I'm going separately, I say. The ballroom smells like beef stock, candle wax, and fresh paint. Marlene has hidden the stained section of crown molding behind eucalyptus branches wired to a free-standing arch. The unauthorized reproduction hangs on the main wall, lit by 2 rented spotlights. Enlarged, every brushstroke is flattened and too bright. The pale crescent beside the cobalt mug looks like a white scar. Susan meets me near the service door. Marlene said you might come. I imagine she used different words. Susan's mouth twitches. The frame is secured with a French cleat. It needs 2 people. Thank you. You didn't hear that from me. At the tables, place cards mark seats for the bank representative, 2 private lenders, a contractor, an accountant, and several people who have booked or supplied Hawthorne House for years. Julian stands near the sideboard inspecting a pair of silver candelabras. He sees me and gives one small nod. Marlene crosses the room before I reach him. Her dark green dress is elegant enough to make the construction dust look intentional. You were not invited as a protester, she says. I'm not protesting. You have a folder. I often carry paper. Her smile stays fixed. Owen told me you might bring some kind of notice. You can give it to my attorney next week. I'm giving it to you now. I hold out the envelope. She doesn't take it. The bank representative, Helena Webb, approaches with Owen beside her. Owen's tie is crooked. Helena looks from the envelope to the reproduction and makes the quick, controlled assessment of someone who already suspects the evening is not going according to the agenda. Ms. Vale, she says, Mr. Cross mentioned there may be a rights issue concerning the artwork. Marlene finally accepts the envelope. There is no rights issue, she says. Claire is the artist. She is also my daughter-in-law, and this work has hung in family spaces for years. That image has never hung here, I say. It is based on a painting that was here last week. Without my permission. Marlene opens the envelope. Her eyes move down the first page. This is vindictive. It's a revocation of 6 years of cooperation. Yes. Owen steps closer. Mom, take the reproduction down. Guests have begun pretending not to listen while standing close enough to hear. Marlene looks at him over the page. Do you understand what happens if tonight fails? Yes. Do you understand what I lose? Yes. And you're choosing this? His eyes flick toward me. I'm choosing not to use what isn't mine. It is the right sentence. It arrives after months of wrong actions and only because every easier route has closed. I feel relief, grief, and suspicion at the same time. Marlene turns to Helena. You came to discuss the property, not a domestic disagreement. Helena gestures toward Julian. The proposed collateral and supporting guarantees are part of the property discussion. Julian sets down his measuring tape. I was asked tonight to inspect the furnishings that remain available as business assets. The art catalog is controlled by Ms. Vale. I stated that in my report. You also recognize the collection, Marlene says. You told us it had value. I recognize the artist. That doesn't give you the collection. The distinction lands as sharply as it did in the bridal suite. Marlene taps the revocation with one finger. The photograph came from my son. Helena looks at Owen. I took it in Claire's locked studio, he says. His voice is quiet. I didn't have permission to use it for this. The room contracts around that admission. Marlene's face goes still. You said she gave you a key. She did. I used it for something she didn't agree to. I hadn't expected him to say it in front of anyone. Part of me hates that the truth sounds braver now than it did when I needed it privately. Helena asks, and the guarantee against your residence? I'm withdrawing it. Marlene grips the envelope. You signed a letter of intent. For equity in Hawthorne House. I'm withdrawing that too. You can't walk away because your wife is angry. I'm walking away because you hid the other debts and I used Claire's property to cover what I didn't know. I protected you from details while I found a solution. You taught me that sentence. Her expression changes then. For the first time, she looks less angry than struck. The chef appears at the ballroom door and silently asks Susan a question with his eyebrows. Susan makes a circling motion. Keep going. Marlene turns back to me. You've made your point. No, I'm removing my work. She could refuse and force a larger fight. She studies Helena, Julian, the lenders, and the envelope in her hand. Risk passes visibly through her. Then she gestures to Susan. "Take it down." 2 staff members bring a ladder. I help guide the reproduction off the cleat. Up close, the print surface shines like plastic. My signature is nearly 3 inches high. Marlene watches us carry it through the service hall. "Where do you want this?" Susan asks. "Loading dock," Marlene says. "I'll take it," I say. "It cost $400. That was your choice." Outside, wind snaps at the corners as I slide the reproduction into the mover's empty wrapping sleeve I brought from home. It won't fit in my car, so Julian helps me lay it flat in the covered service bay. "You don't have to keep it," he says. "I know." Through the open door, I hear Marlene begin dinner. Her voice is steady. She welcomes everyone, thanks them for believing in Hawthorne House, and moves directly to the revised financial presentation. She does not collapse. She does what she has always done, converts catastrophe into a schedule. Owen comes outside 10 minutes later. "I told Helena everything," he says. "I heard. She says the bank won't proceed without additional collateral." I assumed. "Mom has a private offer to buy the property. She's been refusing it because the price won't leave her much after the debts. So she had an exit. She had an exit she didn't like. Rain begins beyond the awning, light enough to silver the parking lot." "I meant what I said in there," he tells me. "I believe you meant it." His face tightens at the limit of that mercy. "Come home with me. We live in the same house. You know what I mean." "Yes." He reaches for my hand. I let him touch it, then pull away. "You chose me after my paintings failed as collateral, after the house required my signature, after Bellwether froze me out, after your mother's debts became impossible to defend. I chose you tonight. You stop choosing against me tonight." He looks toward the ballroom door. "Is there a difference?" There is to the person who had to survive the delay. Hawthorne House sells 10 weeks later. The private buyer keeps the name, retains most of the staff, and replaces the damaged roof before reopening the terrace. After creditors and closing costs, Marlene recovers enough to rent a small office and begin planning events for other venues. She tells people she chose to simplify. Our $28,000 comes back in 3 installments, less $7,000 Owen agrees to absorb from his share of the house when we sell it. He doesn't argue when I ask for a formal separation of finances. He doesn't argue when I move into a loft with north-facing windows and room for storage racks. He argues when I say the marriage is over. "I did the right thing," he says in our empty dining room. "You did. Finally." Then what was the point if nothing changes? Something changed. You're no longer offering my work or our house to save your mother, but you're still leaving. I'm leaving because you thought love meant I would remain available after consent became inconvenient. He sits on the floor where the table used to be. The cobalt mug rests in a padded box beside me. "What would it take to put our family back together?" he asks. I hear the old arrangement inside the question, his mother's emergency, his solution, my participation. "I don't want it back," I say. Bellwether waits until the ownership records are settled before offering me a small exhibition. Elise refuses to call it a comeback. "You were working," she says. "People were simply looking elsewhere." On closing night, after the last visitor leaves, I walk through the rooms shutting off lights. The cobalt mug appears in every painting except the final one. There, on a plain table beneath the south window, lies the corrected catalog beside a ring of studio keys. The real mug waits near the gallery door, holding 3 clean brushes. I lock the front entrance, slip the key into my own pocket, and carry the mug home.